Du-du-du-du-du. Cool. I'll see you next Friday then.
Sounds good.
Ooh, that's exciting. It has been a while.
It has.
Hey, is this Christopher?
Yes, indeed. I'm sorry, I missed
Hey,
a few.
no problem. Welcome. Happy to have you. I'm Daniel. I'm the Youth Opportunity Coordinator focused on Black male achievement inside the city, and I also help run Youth Council, variety of things. Lasheen and I are good friends that we just haven't seen each other in a while.
I see.
But she is inside of like the communications office of the city and helps us to put on like these webinars because of like city regulations. We have to both advertise and then post and then have a live webinar and a whole bunch of things, but she helps us to kind of keep in regulation with all that. Welcome. So yeah, so tell me a little bit more about you. I know I got to read like a very small part of like the
Yeah.
application, but like tell me about you and like what you're interested in and everything like that.
See, so CHS, probably knew that. I just came from baseball practice there. It's the off season for conditioning. Let's see, I play chess.
Nice.
Trying to get better at that.
Yeah, me too.
Let's see, I don't know. I'm trying to have fun at school now. I don't know. I'm trying to do better with my grades. They're not as good as I want them to be. Trying to get them up. But yeah, I don't know.
All right. What grade are you in?
I'm in 10th now, so I'm a, what was that, sophomore? Yeah.
Nice. Hi, Caroline. Awesome. I was just getting to know Christopher a little bit more, and found out they play chess. Chris, what do you play chess on?
Oh, I've got like 3 or 4 boards at my house, and I also play online. And I also play
okay.
at school, so
Yeah.
I play all over the place.
Oh wow. Yeah, I just started like getting back into it, like I don't know, pretty recently. One of my good friends from college plays, and I do now. I downloaded chess.com.
Yeah.
So I just started playing there. Oh, cool. Caroline, do you play chess?
No, but I know at CHS there's like a massive chess club that meets for like an hour and a half. Right?
Yeah.
Whoa. So they're serious then.
Oh yeah.
That's exciting. Caroline is very into politics and advocacy, making the world a better place.
Nice.
Daniel, I had a question. So my friend is turning 18 tomorrow and she wanted me to help her register to vote. Can you send me the information for that?
Yes, I can do that. And if she does she have her license?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes it a lot easier because you can do it online now, actually, if you have your license. But I will send it over to you.
Okay, thank you.
All the information. There we go. So Christopher, for you, what got you interested in youth council? I know not many kids, I say kids, not many students like look into local boards and governments, you know.
To be honest, my mom said that it would look good on colleges. Now I'm trying to get into a good one, so I said, yeah. But
yeah,
I feel like we could do some good work in this one, or in this.
it's a pretty cool and unique thing to have on your college application. I was an admissions counselor for a little while at University of Richmond, and I can tell you, I mean, like you could almost like name off the things that kids would likely to be list: National Honor Society, some certain, you know, DECA or FBLA or whatever, right? You can kind of like know which clubs and organizations, but like local government, like getting involved in your kind of jurisdiction and helping out on local level is something that I don't think that I ever saw in like hundreds of applications that I read. So it definitely does like help you to stand out.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm still new. So like, what does the meeting structure look like? Like, what do we do for the meeting?
Yeah. So most of the time what we will do, once everyone gets here, it just kind of depends because like there's oftentimes there'll be like games, or like Harrison, you just emailed me to let me know that he was going to be at a swim meet tonight. And so like it's kind of hard to get everyone together. But we meet once a month, and then hopefully when everyone's here, we basically try to plan out what we're going to do for the year. So Caroline had asked about voter registration because we've done voter registration drives at CHS, as well as we did one, I guess it was 2 years ago, where we kind of like went to BKTs and like, history classes or AP Gov or whatever to get people registered. We've done a lot of stuff. We speak to city council as well as speaking to the Charlottesville like school council as well. The school board, we speak to them at least once a year, kind of let them know what we've been up to. We've done like interviews. One of like the most, I mean, honestly, I reference this so much when I talk about like things that I've learned from students, was like interviews that we did at CHS, where we spent a day just going classroom to classroom and interviewing kids and asking them about their experiences. This was, I guess, maybe 2 or 3 years ago at this point, but it just gave us so much information on like the student experience. And so then using that to then present proposals to city council, or proposals to the city school board. And that's been really fun and effective, to be honest. A lot of the changes, whether it's with like school lunches or the Quest program, or even my job as a youth opportunity coordinator, was all actually done through youth council and advocacy. And so it's been really cool to see like the ways in which they've kind of made some change. So the meetings are mostly like trying to plan out and see what are some ideas that people have and things that they want to do, and then figuring out ways that we can act on those. So various proposals and things like that. But yeah, but it's been this year's been a little bit crazy, and like this year as including like the end of last year, obviously. But yeah, but it's been really nice to see. I think that, I mean, Caroline, you can speak to your experience as far as like things you all have gotten to do. Even we had, I think it was over the summer, there was an opportunity to go and walk around the kind of like new Piedmont like garden area, of the botanical garden that's going to be coming out. They met the executive director and got to kind of walk around and see what the plans were and like have some input on that as well. Yeah, but Caroline, what do you think we do?
Yeah, I feel like we just kind of say like what are people interested in and what do people want to see change, and then can kind of go from there and do like a ton of different things. I know that like the year before COVID, we did like voter registration drives like you're saying. So then at the beginning of this year, I was like, hey, really quickly, is there any way we could do like a little bit more voter registration stuff before the election? The deadline's in 2 weeks. And then like we were able to like just really quickly get some of that stuff.
Understood. So like we would meet here, right? And then like we would go do something at like a school or something and set up a drive or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all driven by like what you all want to do. So we did like a dialogue on race. I think it was like after August 11th and 12th, we like talked to kids about race at CHS. We've done, there's just so many different things. But it's mostly as an opportunity for you all to like express things that you're interested in, and then basically us like acting on them. Or even like talking to the school board about things they could do differently. Oh, last week we actually had someone from the VRBO, not VRBO, VMDO, come in. That's like the Virginia I'm just going to guess from there, but marketing and a design organization, let's say. But they basically came in because they're going to be the ones that are actually redesigning Buford and Walker. And so they came in to ask youth council, like, what are some input or ideas? They gave a whole presentation, talked about like ways that they were imagining the like middle school experience and how to kind of create spaces that were more ready for learning, as opposed to when the schools were made, which were kind of, not even kind of, they were designed after jails. And so there's very little light, there's, closed hallways and, things like that. So trying to get out of that jail mentality and like confining, and then more opening up the campus and the space.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a lot going on. Mm-hmm.
Who else is in it?
And so there are about five or six other students that are here. It just kind of depends on the week whether or not they can make it. We were supposed to meet, like we had our meeting actually landed on like the Thanksgiving, I think it was, and then so we had to push it back. But then now that we have like communications and everything like that, we can either meet. I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to meet again this month, just because I know you all are coming up on midterms. So I don't want to push that. But we'll likely start back up in the school year, like in the beginning, maybe January, late January probably, for our next meeting.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then a lot of people will be in it for a couple of years. Caroline, you've been here since your freshman year, or was it your sophomore year? 10th grade. We have some people, Ziona Bryant had been here since her 7th grade year, like she was like a rising 7th grader and went all the way through. Harrison is another one that's been here. Harrison and Eve have both been here since they were in 7th grade. So it's a pretty cool commitment. Low stakes, but like kind of high reward. And that like I'm often in conversations with people that are like, I just want to talk to some kids and figure out what's going on, or like ask their opinion about something. And like youth council is often the place that they come to for that.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so like this time is to like pitch ideas to make like to do stuff, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to think for a bit to find something, but
Okay. Yeah, and so it's an open opportunity for people to pitch ideas, or if you have, like, I followed up, there was another student named Hans who goes to STAB, and I talked to him about, he wanted to see about like recycling styrofoam, if it was possible. It's a really hard and complicated process that like only can be done in like certain places. And so I talked to McIntyre to see if they had anything like that, or if they knew anyone in the area. So unfortunately they don't, but just kind of things like if you see something like that's like an issue around your school, asking about it, and then we can kind of act on it from there.
yeah. All right, I'll have to think. I'll have to look for these now.
Yeah.
There's definitely something I can think of now, though.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I don't know. Maybe there's a small thing I've noticed is like there's a lot of kids at CHS, or students, who I don't know, who just don't have the same will for learning. Like I feel like they kind of get slipped through the cracks of the education system. Like they kind of get like in these loops of getting lost, like getting behind. I don't know. I you can do about that, because it just feels like negligence and not it's not like a hard problem to solve. It's just someone needs to put in a little effort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I was peer tutoring today, and like, I just feel just so awful for the girl that I'm tutoring, because like she barely speaks any English at all. And then we were talking about like specific like high level science terms within English, but like the way
Oh,
that I was trying to explain them required English words that she didn't know. And I just felt a little bit like I'm doing my best, but also like I feel like there should be someone helping you that is not a student who doesn't speak the language you're fluent in. But I also know it's like not possible to have like, I think my public speaking teacher was saying that there's like 30 or 40 languages spoken at CHS. So I know it's not possible to have like someone who speaks English and also all of those languages.
Yeah. I think something else is like there's a kids or students like in like elementary school and middle school, they don't learn any Spanish. Like a lot of people take Spanish 1 in like 8th or 9th grade. And I'm using Spanish probably because it's just the most common, but like I feel like those skills can be started earlier, and that's when they're the easiest to learn, is when you're like
exactly
7 to 12 or something, as I think the ideal range to pick up a second language. Like I think that's a problem with the United States in general. Like the average language spoken by a person is like 1.6, and in Europe or Asia, it's over 2.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good opportunity. And I think honestly, with the interesting enough, like with the remaking middle school like process, they also are going to be creating a like a new preschool for kids, right? So then that way we'd have everyone that's in Charlottesville will be able to go to preschool. And that could be a really cool opportunity to talk to them about like what would it look like to have language learning or a language center inside of there, right? And then that way you can start to kind of expand students' languages from that early on.
I know a few kids who went to international school, which obviously is like obscenely expensive, and they kind of were like, it was really cool, and I knew this language, and I don't know any of it anymore. But if you like begin learning the basics of a language in preschool, and then your kindergarten class continues from there, and then like throughout the whole public school system, you can be like actually getting to a point where you're like fluent, would be really cool.
Yeah, my dad, he learned Spanish when he was 17 because he was going to Spain, and he said like it was great because he went to Spain, but now he can barely speak it because like he believes because it's like he didn't learn it as a kid, and that was like secondary knowledge. You know, it wasn't second nature. It was always a little bit forced.
Right. And you're kind of like in that process. I had an Arabic minor, and like there's a point in your brain where you're translating, right? And you can get pretty good and pretty fast at translating. But then there's a point where you just start thinking in that other language. And that's the point you want to get to for fluency for sure.
It also begs the question, like I've been speaking about Spanish, but I think there is a good reason to think like Spanish kind of limits it because it's very hard to learn 2 languages at the same time. Like even like connected languages like Spanish and Italian. But it does bring up the question, like what languages should we focus on if we're going to make new ones? If we're going to make students learn it earlier.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's kind of thinking about like what is our community need, right? Are there languages in our community? As you mentioned, there are so many different languages spoken at CHS. What's, a dominant language, or even if it's not English, what's secondary to that? Because even with communicating people, across different spaces, I mean, there's plenty of there's that really good taco truck that's over near Costco and like the movie theater on Rio. Yeah.
That's good.
And those guys, there's two brothers that are twins, and so like they'll switch out sometimes, and I'll be like, "You're not the same guy." But they always like talk to me in Spanish, and I can like kind of understand a little bit. I mean, there's like out of the conversation, there's maybe 20 words, right? Of like, what kind of tacos do you want? Do you want this, that, or the third? Do you want hot or mild sauce? Right? It's not too in depth of a conversation. And so I can kind of like make my way through pretending that I know Spanish, but if they ask me anything else, they're just like,
Yeah.
how's your day or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm just kidding. I don't really know Spanish.
I mean, it's also like I thought I was pretty fluent because I knew like classroom Spanish. Like I've been taking Spanish like sort of since 5th grade. And then like I went to a taco truck and I was trying to talk to these guys and they started speaking fast and I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was studying for my bat mitzvah, my teacher took me to like order ice cream in Hebrew, and I was like, I only know how to say like biblical things.
Yeah.
You're like, is there like a Torah here that I can read?
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fun. So yeah, go ahead.
If I wanted to lobby for like more languages spoken in schools, like, do I go through you or do I start? Like, where do I start?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's starting with kind of, I'd say probably like talking to your peers, right? So seeing what are languages that people are speaking, languages people want to speak, things that people are interested in as far as, is this something people have time for, right? I know that with AP classes and things like that, it makes it really hard for a lot of students that are looking to get into school, college that is, to find time to learn another language, more than just the required 3 years. I guess you have to have, at least it was 3 years when I went to school, for an advanced diploma or 2 and 2 of different languages. I think that it's talking to them first, right, and figuring out what's kind of the interest, and then especially if you have any younger siblings, talking to them and seeing what their friends are doing as well. And then from there, we can then start working together to like build a proposal or figure out what does, early language learning look like, everything like that. What?
Gotcha.
Sorry, early language look like, early language learning look like. That's what us. But yeah, so that's like normally where I start with, right? Getting a pulse in the community.
I got myself a piece of paper.
Uh-huh.
Tomorrow, I'm gonna ask everybody how many languages they speak,
Mhm.
and do they think they'll be fluent by the time they leave public school?
For mock election, we like in second period made a poll and then like passed it a QR code around at lunch, and like by like 6th period we had like 80 responses. So like,
Whoa.
if it's a short thing and you like make it extremely easy for people to do, like we were going up to lunch tables like, fill out our poll please, and then it like takes them 2 seconds. Like you can get a lot of information really quickly if you just make it like so easy for people to do.
Yeah, it's especially easier probably now than it has been because like the people are relying more on QR codes. It's more faster now.
And also just
Yeah.
like when someone's in your face, like, will you fill this out for me? They're not going to say no.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That's a really good idea. What did you all poll for your mock election?
We did pro-choice interest group because we weren't a candidate,
Oh,
but
interesting.
we got shut down by
Oh.
So
Interesting, especially given like, I mean, Supreme Court cases today, right?
yeah.
Interesting. What was there any data that you're able to collect or find out, like, you know what I mean, before you were shut down, or
Yeah, we got a lot of information. I mean, what I thought was most interesting, because I know that like CHS is a pretty liberal like community, so I didn't think it was that surprising that people were like saying that they support like abortion rights. But what I thought was interesting was it was like 8% of people said they thought the sex ed they got in public school was adequate. So like that's
It's terrible. Like,
yeah.
So my dad is a psychologist, and so like these facts have been drilled into my head since I was very little, and something like an absurdly small percentage of people learned how to do safe sex, and I think like the statistics there are 42% of people learned how to put on a condom by a healthcare professional.
Wow.
Like in the United States, high school graduates.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had to do a research project on an STD for Health 10. So
That was it? That was
certainly educational. But but my point is less like specifically on that issue and more just like I think that it's like it's easy to get people want to like say things. Like there was a lot of people who were just like, yeah, sure, I'll fill out your poll. But there's a lot of people who was like, oh, mock election, I'll definitely fill out your poll.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's super interesting though, because I mean, I'm thinking honestly just about, I don't know, like what, like, because if people especially, so I took sex ed when I was in, like, it was like a part of our PE because we didn't have virtual PE, right? It wasn't an option. I mean, I only graduated school in 2009. It wasn't centuries ago. But it was, so like I remember going through and there was like a week, I want to say it was like sex ed week or something like that, where instead of going to PE and playing kickball or whatever, we would go and then learn about sex ed. And then there was like a Scantron quiz at the end or something. But I remember that being an option, and there was an option you could opt out if you wanted to or whatever. But I think especially if you have like virtual PE or like you were saying, you know, you can do a research on like an STI or something that sounds woefully like not enough. And again, like if we're thinking about like abortion rights and abortion access, that comes down to sex initially, right? And that's how it all starts. We can't get to abortion and understanding that without understanding sex and understanding you know, proper and safe sex. And I think that like that's so interesting to know that there's so many students that feel that they were just like they're currently and were not prepared. You know what I mean? And I don't know if there's any type of like Commonwealth regulations or whatever that says what they have to have or what they don't have to have, but 8% of even in a small poll is like just not enough, because then you're just learning by yourself and you're figuring things out on your own and you're making mistakes and there's so many different things wrong. And another opportunity, right, for growth. For the school system for sure. What were you saying, Chris? I'm sorry, I think I cut you off.
I said it's definitely not a place for trial and error.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and so many different issues that can come up with that without proper education.
And just looking at like in the like if you like, so we had 79 responses and 15 people responded to the if you would like to elaborate, and like it's definitely a lot of things that I like kind of would have never thought of. Like someone was like, we never learned about LGBTQ relationships. Like that's just like there's people have definitely interesting things to say if you give them space.
That's really interesting. Because then I think that like you get to college and it's like it is, I don't know, at least colleges that I've either been to, taught at, worked at, whatever, there'll be certain groups that will kind of like be really, I would say over the top, but like when I was at UVM, University of Vermont for grad school, they were like, I mean, like they had like parties and like sex bingo, and you would win all types of different crazy stuff. And it was like there's a middle ground between that. And I think that like just giving people good sex education and understanding what healthy, safe, loving, consensual relationships look like can be really helpful. And I wonder, even honestly, even if actually Sarah, the Sexual Assault Resource Agency, if they would be able to help with that. I'll ask someone. I literally just talked to someone about that.
Are they local or like?
They're local.
nationwide?
Yeah, they're local. I'm sure that this has got to be a question that I'm sure they've been asked, or you know what I mean. And again, it's kind of like you don't get to sexual assault and like horrible things happening to people without like proper sex education, right? It just kind of comes back to that again and again.
Yeah.
And so I wonder like what their process has been like working with the state or even local communities to do that. I will ask them because I'm sure they also have really good data on how to do it well. Mm-hmm.
I
Other
think there's
ideas. Yeah.
like a lot of stigma, and this is kind of tangentially related, but Young Feminists has spent like so much time trying to get admin to put pads and tampons in the bathroom, and they like finally did it, but also they're just like in the Tupperware on the floor, which is like unideal. But also we don't have soap in the bathroom, so it's like,
oh my God. What? Again,
Yeah.
basic necessities. What? There's no soap, pads, or tampons in the bathrooms.
Yeah, like on a similar note of like schools kind of being underprepared is like my teachers like don't have pencils. Like a lot of them they just run out like on the first day because like that's kind of related, but like I don't know. A lot of them can't like kind of make do with the resources that they have now.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know that one of my teachers, Miss Horn, is like so amazing. She has soap in her classroom that you can take with you to the bathroom. She has like red Solo cups because they turned the water fountain off, so but they have the water bottle like fillers on for people. She has snacks. She like really is doing all this stuff with her own money and like trying, and like I've seen students just like poke their head in the morning and be like, hey, Miss Horn, like, can I get food, please? Like it shouldn't fall to a teacher with a teacher's salary to like provide students with food and soap and water.
Yeah, that also like I there's like probably about 10, 12 people in my last period English class. And I think 4 or 5 of them today were like hadn't eaten lunch because like they didn't want the school lunch and they either forgot or didn't want to bring lunch from home. Like I think the school lunch is still a problem for many people.
Yeah. Are there are some issues that were identified before about school lunches. One of them actually being like for even if it was like halal options or for why am I forgetting the word for it? Oh my gosh. The word where you can't have meat and cheese in the same, like, you know, you can't have like a pepperoni pizza or like
kosher.
Kosher, yeah, that's what
kosher. Thank you. So like they would say oh, like here's a kosher option. Like we have pepperoni pizzas today, but if you want a kosher option, here's a salad. But like the salad had like pepperoni inside of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that's but so for you all, what are like, I don't know. So I know that there's also, I think like I don't say like a divide, but like there's people that bring their lunches and there's people that pack, like there's people that bring their lunches, people that like get school lunches, right? And like, do you all see as far as like, is like what you're bringing as healthy, or like, do you know what I mean? Like if you are bringing lunch, what does it look like in comparison to the lunches that are served?
I've had school lunch like a few times, but like to be honest, like the lunch that I prepare for like 5 minutes is probably much more healthy and probably has much more like caloric value. Like, what do they have recently? It was like a very small salad, and then this like mozzarella sticks like package that was just, I don't know, it was very bad.
My friend gets school lunch and it was like whatever, an apple, like fries, and then just like the nacho cheese, but like not actually anything else. It was just like liquid cheese.
What?
Why was someone like, this is what we should be serving people?
Yeah, like,
right.
You almost, I think like maybe a good option is to have like, not a buffet, but like just have something there that's like a salad bar or something, just so that you have a healthy option that is, you can like make it for yourself.
I think we had that at Venable. I think that you could always get salad, and then there was like a option 1, option 2 of the day, and then salad.
Yeah, I went to a STAB for a year in 8th grade, and like just the difference, like I could always rely on the school lunch at STAB because it was always pretty good, but at CHS it's just, I don't know.
I mean, I won't say that like the packed lunch that I like, I mean, I don't know, I like drove to Bodo's and got myself lunch, but like at my lunch table, it's like one person gets a school lunch, and then there's like one girl at my table who just doesn't have the time. So she, like yesterday, her lunch was just like a gigantic thing of animal crackers. Like there's definitely a continuum of like how much, but I think this year's school lunch is free, like no matter what. And I think that like, I don't know, that's what I've heard.
It cost money before?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
it used to.
I mean, I think you could qualify for free or reduced lunch, but
now I think, if I'm correct, it's now an opt-out as opposed to an opt-in.
Yeah.
So you would like opt out of free and reduced lunch, as opposed to like, so when I went to school, like you either paid for lunch or you got like a free or reduced lunch. But it's, but like I would like, some days I may have like weeks or something like that, or where I would go and I'd pay, or have like a little card that I would scan and it had a certain amount of money on it.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, because you always hear about like kids and their lunch money, but
yeah.
But I definitely think that it like trends towards like more low-income students relying on that food, and then like having like to go the whole day with just whatever they're gonna get served at.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that we have lunch at, like, one of my lunches is at 10:45, so that's like a long time, from like 11:15 to 4, or 11:15 to next breakfast is a long time to go.
Yeah. Like I've been to 4 schools, 5 including preschool, since I've been a little kid, and like CHS is probably the most where it's like there's like the most difference between like the kids in AP classes, or all like the kids who take the higher tracks and are like trying to get into colleges, are like so much further along, and like it's kind of like a block of people who do that. It's much more like a tale of two cities almost, you know?
Yeah. I'm doing a
Mhm.
project on post-grad planning for my public speaking class, and we're trying to talk to people who aren't planning to go to college. And I'm just like, I can go up to strangers, but like everyone in my classes and everyone that like does cross country and does young feminist
Mm,
is planning to
mhm.
go to college.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely a huge, like, I don't want to say segregation, but also like definitely a
It's,
huge
yeah,
segregation there.
Mhm.
yeah. Like, it, what is like into college rate for CHS? Like graduation to college? What's the percentage?
To college or just graduating, like in general?
Oh, I don't know, either one.
CHS is really good at graduating students. They graduate in
Good.
like the high 90s, right? It's like 90, between 94 to 97. And even if you break down for socioeconomic class, race, etc., it doesn't get lower than 90%, at least not in statistics that I've seen.
Yeah.
For graduation, that is.
Yeah.
Going into college, I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up to see. There's a ranking system, or there's a something that keeps track of students that go to college after high school. So I don't know what that is, but what were you asking for?
CHS into college rate.
Mhm.
Or how would you say that? Graduation to higher education? I don't know.
It's like it's a matriculation into higher education, like, statistic. Matriculation. And it does, like, it's interesting because they'll do it in they'll measure it in different ways. Some of them used to measure only 4-year institutions. Now I think they measure 2 and 4-year institutions. They also, it's actually interesting. So like my school, less than 60% of the students matriculated into college after high school. But it wasn't because I went to a quote unquote bad school. It was actually because I lived in a military town.
Yeah.
And so like a good 30 or 40% of our students actually just went straight into the military.
Yeah.
And so that then got our, like, numbers for college acceptances or matriculation down.
I think that CHS is like trying to do this thing where they like focus less on just like forcing people to go to college.
Just into the next steps. Yeah.
Like I know that what used to be called the like college and career prep worksheet is now the like post grad plan worksheet. But I don't know really if that's making it any difference.
Yeah. What was my point going to be about that statistic? Oh, yeah. Because like I said at Stab, like the brochure my parents read or were handed was that like the matriculation into college. Screwed that one up. It was like in the 90s, and like
Yeah, I mean, my brother goes to Peabody. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. They like send the parents a thing showing where like the class from Peabody that is now going to college. So like Peabody ends in 8th grade, but the class that is graduating 12th grade, what college they're going to.
Mhm.
yeah,
Like there's definitely like private school.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat private schools because you pay for them, but like
Hmm.
it is very much an advantage for those who go into it. Like I took biology in 8th grade, and now I'm in a biology 2 class with almost entirely seniors.
Wow.
I got the early leg up, and now that's going to look great on college. 'Cause I'm probably going to take AP the next 2 years for science.
Mm.
Like, if there was, like, one thing my dad said is he's got ADHD, and he got his PhD, and he said like the reason why was because he was putting into like a gifted program in his public school.
Mm.
So, like, maybe do we have that at in the CCS system?
They do, and they're thankfully actually like they're changing the way that it's done, because it used to be that they would test kids in first grade, and oftentimes like if you know two things: one, they would test kids in first grade; two, they would use a national test that also had books and study guides similar to the SAT, ACT. So you could, like, if I know that my kid is going to be in first grade next year and they could be tested for this, guess what we're doing
Yeah.
in kindergarten and all day after first grade? We are reading this book that says how to beat this test, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to teach you this. And then, so what was happening is that students like that were privileged, white students, et cetera, were getting those test prep, and were basically like, it turned out like 70% of like white students were identified as gifted. And that's not what a gifted
Yeah.
program is, right? That's not how giftedness works. You can't have an overwhelming majority of people be identified as gifted, without there being a flaw in the system and like the testing strategies. So they've changed it now. Everyone gets the books, everyone gets the structures, and they don't test until third grade. So it's new. I don't think that just started this year. So I don't know that they have any data. Maybe
yeah.
it started last year. So I don't know that they have like data or things like that. But it was a big, like, it was a really big problem, right? In that like people were, because what happens is, just as you were asking about like the Tale of Two Cities, that starts when you're
Yeah,
in Quest
when
or
you're young,
not in
yeah.
Quest, right? Because
I
then
mean,
you're
like-
in honors or not in honors.
I even remember in third grade, like me and my white friends were in the like advanced spelling group, and we had one white friend who was not in the advanced like spelling group, but my teacher felt bad for her because she was like, all of her friends were in the other group and just like moved her.
Yeah. You know, giftedness. So yeah, so I'm sure that was not even the only instance of that. But yeah, but that's what makes these differences that you see in high school.
I did see something recently that said that like 84% of Charlottesville students tested gifted on the national scale or something. I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't want to put too much water into that one. Or no, that's not the phrase. What's the phrase for that? Too much.
Maybe it'd be
Whatever.
too much weight on that, or like,
Yeah,
I don't know,
that's
take it with a grain of salt.
that's the better saying, because I saw it online on an Instagram thing or something.
Oh yeah.
But I do wonder how Charlottesville public school systems like stack up to other ones around. Like, I know obviously Western is probably they probably have more resources than we do per capita, but
Mhm.
like Almar or Green or Louisa or Urbana or
I know that the other day in my English class, we were just like looking at the score distributions from the AP Lit exam, and it was like 5% of students get a 5 or something, just the highest you can get. And just looking at that, and my teacher was like, yeah, but like CHS's distributions are way better than this, and my class distributions are way better than this. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think she was saying that so we wouldn't be like scared. But
right.
I think CHS does do like pretty well on that kind of thing. But again, it's like if only half the school is taking the AP Lit exam in the first place, like what does that data even mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I've had a few friends on the baseball team who all started the year taking AP classes, and they dropped out because they couldn't take the work. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, especially you add on multiple AP classes on top of that, right? Um, it's a lot to handle. And I think that it's something, and I'll be honest with you, and this is like my own experience, like college prepared me more for college than AP classes did. AP classes, I like
Yeah.
completely forgot and nothing about it made any difference in my college experience. Um, except for the fact that it like allowed me to get into a good college, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
because they
would
saw that I
say
took classes.
like the idea that you could like skip taking whatever class because you got the AP credit is like really far from most people's minds when they are taking AP classes.
Yeah. Is it kind of like like what it's going to look like on your college application? Is that what people are taking them? Mhm. And that was another thing that I think we had talked about at one point. And there wasn't really even consensus on it within youth council as far as like capping the number of AP classes that students can take as an idea, because then like one, I think it like mentally it'll be better for students to not have to take 7 AP classes, their senior year or whatever. But I think that it also like they're looking at it, they as in students are looking at it from like their application standpoint, and they're like, well, if I only take 5 AP classes, but my friend that goes to Western takes 7, then like they're gonna take them over me because they took 4 AP classes.
Yeah.
But really, like on the admission side of it all, it's more about like the percentage of AP classes that you could take. So if there was only 3 AP classes offered to you and you took all 3 of them, how am I going to fault you against a private school kid that took 10, right?
Yeah, I definitely, for what's worth, I'm pro restricting the number of APs because I'm taking 4 APs. I feel completely like I feel like the amount of work I have is manageable, but I know I couldn't be taking any more APs. And I know that like on my transcript, it's like she took 4 and she could have taken 7. Whereas my friend who goes to tandem is taking like 2 and the amount, and she's a senior and the max she can take is 2. And so it's like, okay, I'm taking like half and she's taking 100%. But it's like I'm doing
Right.
just as much work as her.
And is AP
Yeah.
classes like a total for the whole time you've been in like the school system, or is it just your senior year?
As far as like what they look at, or
Like, yeah,
basically what happens is every school is required to fill out, it's kind of like a one sheet that tells you, do you rank your students, yes or no? If so, what's the ranking like? What type of grade systems do you use? 10 point, 7 point, etc. How many of your students go to what's it called, 4-year college, or like the matriculation rate that you were asking? And then how many like advanced placement courses do you offer? Like what's kind of like what's your full schedule? And then basically I would then compare it to what the student took and see, oh, the student took, standard English versus honors, even though it was available to them. And so that's kind of like what they look at. And it also will tell you inside of there were schools that didn't rank, some schools didn't even use grades. It was like a lot of things that were like different ways that they could adjust. But there's plenty of schools that would cap the number of AP classes, either in total or per year that a student could take. And then you just, like Caroline said, you would just weigh that against, okay, what were the numbers that they could take?
like how could we like how could we make a change for the capping of the AP classes?
I know there was like a big push for it, and my dad was like on the committee that was trying to decide right before COVID, and I think it just kind of like disintegrated.
Yeah.
Because schools were like, we actually have more important things to do, like decide if we're gonna have school.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But it's something that we can like look into, right? As far as like, yeah.
I think most people would be in support. I think most students would be in support of it. I just know like I feel like the students who like want to be able to take all the AP classes are just also likely to be extremely vocal about it.
Mhm.
But
This is kind of off topic, but I think I've got a great idea for like a starter project. Um, I just thought of this one, and I think so. I'm pretty sure, and I'm not positive, and this is why I haven't thought this one out yet. But I'm pretty sure we're gonna go online for snow days this year if we get them, and I think I should petition against that. Like,
literally, you would have 100%. Like
I mean-
I disagree with that plan on like every possible plane. That
Yeah.
I can see like convincing the student body and probably the teachers too.
Mhm.
But like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I hope I can make some sort of difference on that one because that one's really near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I could not imagine school without snow days. It was already hard enough when like in Virginia when they would cancel for small things, and then we had to either add days on at the end of the
Oh,
year.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like I understand that you can get to that point and then you're like, look, we're out of snow days. We got to do virtual now. Sure, fine, I'll deal with it. But I think that like just not having snow days at all, that just doesn't feel.
And like a lot of times it's just extremely impractical because like not everyone has internet, and if it's too snowy to get to school,
Mhm.
like how are you going to get to a place that has internet?
Yeah.
Right.
Because I know last year there were like places students could go if they didn't have internet, or they like delivered hotspots to people's houses, but they can't exactly be like out there at 7:30 in the morning, like
Yeah.
handing out
Roads
school.
aren't paved.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to. I'll go around with a piece of paper tomorrow and do that as well.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, so there are, as you can see, Christopher, right, there's lots of things that can be tackled. And we can keep thinking about so many different things. There's sex ed, there was languages, there were, thankfully Young Feminists got pads and tampons in the bathrooms, but you know, if there's a better structure for that. There are school supplies, school lunches, post-graduation matriculation, AP students, AP class capping, so many different things. So keep thinking about these, and I can also like send out a survey to youth council students just to kind of see what are topics that they want to focus on for the next semester, to see if there's anything that comes to the top, and that we can either do an in-depth project on like focused on, or we could do kind of like a variety, whether it's bigger surveys or another listening tour throughout the school, to then present information to the school board and say, look, you know, X amount of students are for capping AP classes or not canceling snow days or whatever it is. 100% for not canceling snow days, but yeah.
One last thing. So would I talk to like my counselor or maybe the principal if I wanted to like set up a table for the survey, or like if I wanted to do that during lunch, like how would I contact? How would I?
Yeah, I would say either the counselor or the principal, either your counselor or the principal. I know Dr. I, you kind of have to like run after him in order to like catch him. At least I do. So that's an option, but they're normally helpful. The custodians also help as far as like they can set up the stuff for you if you needed a table. But I think that like what Caroline did could also be helpful, because I set up a table before and Caroline was with me actually. It's kind of hard to get people to come over to a table, but I think like having, if you had like a QR code on your phone, you can literally just like pull your phones out, scan this, take this survey. That could be really helpful and fast.
Yeah, we had a QR code and then we made a tiny URL because like 3 people couldn't get to the QR code to work, but like
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll get some chocolates to get some more interest or something.
yeah. That could be helpful too.
because
Incentivizing
that's
is
what
always
they did
helpful.
for French Week. They had food
Oh,
and
yeah.
everyone was like devastated when French Week ended because they couldn't like go over to the French table and get food.
Mhm.
Yeah.
French week. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. The reason there's a meeting that starts at 7, so we have to get off. But thank you all for being here and for just having an awesome discussion. And we'll hopefully get some more students coming in next time. But I'll send out information for the next Zoom meeting. But yeah, but it was a good conversation. Thanks for talking.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Talk to
See
you
ya.
later. All right. Bye-bye.